Incra sliding table has a great system for adjusting the angle of the miter fence to within ½ degree of where you want it. You can be dead on accurate. This is not only great for making 90-degree cutoffs and 45-degree miters, but if you're doing special work, like say an octagon where you need a 22.5-degree miter, you can get that ½ degree on these protractors right back here at back of the fence. I'll show you how in a minute. One of the things that sliding tables are not necessarily good for, however, is compound miters. Let me show you what a compound miter is. If you take these two boards and you make an ordinary miter in them, say at 45 degrees, they would join at 90 degrees like this, and the faces would lie flat on the table. But in a compound miter, not only is the miter gauge tilted or angled, but the blade or the table is tilted. And when you put them together, you still get your 90 degrees, but your work is sloped so that it is facing in or out, one way or the other, and creating a nice visual angle there. We're going to cut these two boards here in a minute. We're going to make a compound miter using the Incra table, but we're going to cut these so that they will join together at 90 degrees, but they will be sloped at 30 degrees. Now, in order to do that, I've adjusted the angle of the table already to 37.75 degrees. I did that using this neat little Wixie gauge. This Wixie gauge will record the angle of a table within 1/10 of a degree. Now, I've got to set the miter fence to 67.5 degrees. So, I'm going to loosen the little bracket that holds the bottom of the fence and loosen the handle on the protractor that holds the top. I'm going to pull out the tooth that sits in the 0 detent and swing this out to 65 degrees. Push the tooth back in, tighten this down. I'll leave the handle a little loose. Right now, this miter fence is at 65 degrees. Now I've got to back it off 1.5 degrees, and I do that with this little protractor behind the big protractor. So take this out and swing this over to 1.5. There's my 1.5 degree detent. Okay, so what I've done is I've come out 65 degrees and then backed off 1.5 degrees, so I'm right now at 63.5 degrees. Let me tighten down the bracket and the handle. All right, and I'm ready to go. Now, I'm going to need to work on both sides of the fence here. And as I told you before, you can't really take this from one side to the other. So what I'm going to do here is I've got a jig. Drew and I call this our anti-gravity miter jig because not only does it allow you to do angles, but it also keeps the board from sliding downhill into the blade. I take a piece of wood here, and I've already done this, so that you won't have to watch me do it again. But I have 2 clamps mounted here on this anti-gravity miter jig. One of the clamps is set at 90 degrees to the board on which it's mounted, and this board I can also use as a fence. So I have tightened this board down so that it is parallel to the miter fence that I've already set at 63.5 degrees. Now, let's make our first cut with the miter fence. We're going to have this board against the most of the board against the Incra fence. See how that does a nice job of keeping the uphill piece from falling into the blade, so you get no kickback. Now, we're going to take the next piece and we're going to cut it on the other side of the fence. Now in this case, we don't need to worry too much about the downhill piece. That will just fall away from the blade. And there you go. They join at 90 degrees and they're sloped at 30 degrees. That's 30 degrees as measured from vertically. I'm Nick Engler, and I'm director of the Shopsmith National Woodworking Academy, and we have a whole lot of good tips. At Shopsmith's website, you'll find dozens of free videos on all kinds of woodworking projects, from preparing lumber to applying a finish. Twice a month, we webcast a 2-hour sawdust session where you can ask questions and get woodworking help right over your computer. To find out more, come visit us at shopsmith.com.